What the hell you were doing? My grandfather gonna die!
Sir, please
Job!
calm down. I'm just doing my job.
Job!
I'm standing in my grandfather's bedroom at 2 in the morning, and the oxygen machine just went silent. Not beeping, not malfunctioning. Silent. The backup battery starts its countdown. 18 minutes before a Korean War veteran suffocates in his own bed. I run outside and there she is, standing at the utility shed with bolt cutters in her manicured hands. The HOA president. Her name's Karen, and she's smiling. Medical equipment doesn't belong in residential neighborhoods, she says, dusting off her hands like she just finished gardening. Maybe next time you'll pay your landscaping fines on time. $47. That's what my grandfather's life is worth to her. I'm shaking, not from fear, from rage so pure it makes my vision narrow. You just cut power to a dying man's life support, I say quietly. She shrugs. Emergency situations require emergency measures. He should be in a facility, not disrupting community standards. Behind me, I can hear my grandfather struggling, the raspy sound of lungs that can't get enough air, the backup battery beeping its warning. Neighbors are starting to come outside. Mrs. Patterson first, the retired nurse who lives 3 houses down. Karen, what the hell did you do? She shouts. But Karen's already walking back to her car. White Lexus. Vanity plate that says Pres 1. She thinks she won. She has no idea what's about to happen. Because while she's been playing HOA queen with her clipboard and her violation notices, I've been an electrical contractor for 12 years. Former Air Force. Learned my trade rewiring fighter jets. And the document I found buried in our property deed this morning? The one that gives me federal medical equipment protection? She just triggered every single one of those protections. But I'm getting ahead of myself. 6 months ago, to the day we moved in, and met the woman who thought she could kill my grandfather over lawn violations. My name's Marcus. I'm 34. Electrical contractor in Phoenix. 6 months ago, my grandfather Ezra came home from the VA hospital after fighting pneumonia that damn near killed him. Korean War veteran. Purple Heart. The kind of man who still stands for the national anthem even though his knees sound like breaking glass when he does it. Doctor said his lungs were scarred beyond repair. He'd need supplemental oxygen at home. Indefinitely. So I bought this house in Willow Creek Estates specifically for him. Single-story ranch. Quiet neighborhood. 47 homes built around a central park. I converted the master bedroom into what the respiratory therapist called a home recovery suite. Hospital-grade oxygen concentrator. Backup tanks. Monitoring equipment. Everything Medicare approved. Everything keeping a war hero alive. The HOA seemed normal at first. Annual dues covered landscaping and street lights. Basic stuff. Then Mrs. Sterling, the president, moved to assisted living. And Karen Pelton got elected. First thing she did was show up at my door with that clipboard. Mr. Delacroix, your landscaping isn't compliant with community standards. I'd planted drought-resistant native plants. Desert willow. Palo Verde trees. Stuff that actually survives Arizona heat without wasting water. Section 12.4 of the covenant, she said, tapping her tablet. Approved plant varieties only. The fine was $47. I paid it, kept my head down. Then came the violation for my work truck being too loud at 5 a.m. Then another for the oxygen delivery van taking 30 minutes in my driveway. Then she started photographing my grandfather through his bedroom window, taking pictures of his oxygen equipment like she was building a case. Medical equipment creates noise violations, she told me. This is a residential neighborhood, not a hospital. That's when I realized what she was really doing. She was trying to force us out, and she wasn't going to stop until we were gone. The violations came every week after that. $93 for medical waste accumulation. She'd photographed 3 empty oxygen canisters by my garage waiting for pickup. Standard procedure for any patient on supplemental oxygen. But Karen documented it like I was running a hazmat site. Then she called an emergency HOA meeting. Sent an email to all 47 residents with the subject line, "Zoning violation threatens neighborhood safety." I walked into that community center, feeling like I was heading to a trial. Karen had a 12-page slideshow ready. Photos of my grandfather's oxygen concentrator labeled as industrial equipment. His backup tanks marked hazardous material storage. "This property is operating as an unlicensed medical facility," she announced. "It's affecting our property values and community character." Mrs. Patterson, the retired nurse, stood up immediately. "Karen, that's a home oxygen concentrator. My husband used one after his stroke. They're quieter than dishwashers." Karen smiled that cold smile. "Mrs. Patterson, I appreciate your emotional investment, but we must follow legal guidelines." I pulled out printed federal housing guidelines. The Fair Housing Act. Reasonable accommodations for disabilities. "Ma'am, federal law requires you to make accommodations for medical equipment. This is established case law." The zoning guy they brought in, Bradley, started looking uncomfortable. "Actually, federal disability law does supersede local ordinances," he said quietly. Karen cut him off. "The board will make decisions based on our covenant interpretation." The vote was 4-3. My grandfather's medical equipment had to be relocated to interior rooms, not visible from the street. Medical deliveries limited to once per month. As people filed out, Karen approached me. "I'm sure you can find appropriate senior living facilities," she said sweetly. That's when I knew. This wasn't about rules. This was about removing anyone who didn't fit her perfect suburban vision. And she wasn't going to stop. 3 weeks later, I came home from a job at midnight to find my grandfather on the floor. The power was out, just in our house. Every other house on the street had lights on. His oxygen machine was dead. Backup battery drained. Mrs. Patterson was there, manually ventilating him with an emergency bag while we waited for the ambulance. "I found him 20 minutes ago," she said, tears running down her face. "Marcus, someone cut the main breaker." Deliberately. The paramedics stabilized him, took him to the hospital for observation. I went to the utility box. Someone had used bolt cutters to sever the external connection. Clean cuts. Professional. My security cameras caught everything. Karen, 2 a.m. Bolt cutters in hand. Walking up to my utility shed like she owned it. Cutting the power to a dying veteran's life support equipment. Then walking away. I called the police. Filed a report. "Sounds like a civil matter," the officer said. "HOA disputes rarely involve criminal charges unless there's actual assault." Assault. She just tried to kill my grandfather, and it was a civil matter. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat at my kitchen table going through every document from our house purchase. That's when I found it. Buried in the original 1987 property deed. Emergency medical equipment easement. This property maintains perpetual utility priority for life-sustaining medical devices, superseding all future homeowner association restrictions. The original developer had built federal medical protection directly into the deed. Karen hadn't just violated HOA rules. She trampled on a legally protected easement that made her entire power play invalid. And that easement gave me authority to demand emergency medical infrastructure, including backup power systems, industrial-grade backup power systems, the kind that require 53-foot trucks for delivery. I smiled for the first time in weeks. Karen had no idea what she just triggered. I called Premier Medical Equipment Rentals first thing Monday morning. "I need your largest hospital-grade backup generator," I told them, "for veterans' medical emergency situation. Our Caterpillar XQ50 is what hospitals use during disasters," the dispatcher said. 50 kilowatts. Requires a 53-foot truck for transport. Perfect. How soon? Thursday morning. But you'll need permits for residential street parking. Already covered under federal medical easement protections, I said. This is protected medical infrastructure. Thursday morning came in gray and heavy. I was standing in my driveway with my coffee when the rumble started. That diesel engine. You could hear it 3 blocks away. The truck turned onto our street, and it was massive. 53 feet of industrial power. Emergency strobe lights already flashing. It parked directly in front of Karen's house. Blocked her driveway completely. She came out in her bathrobe, hair disheveled, looking like she hadn't slept. The generator's diesel engine was already running. 75 decibels of constant industrial noise. "What is that?" she screamed at the technician. "Hospital-grade emergency power supply, ma'am," Dave said calmly. "Federally protected medical infrastructure. You can't park that here." This is a residential neighborhood. Actually, I said, walking over with my federal easement paperwork. I can. You triggered emergency medical protections when you cut power to life support equipment. Her face went white. This generator stays until my grandfather's medical situation is stable. Could be weeks. Could be months. The diesel engine rumbled. Emergency lights painted her perfect white house in red and blue strobes. Neighbors were coming outside. Phones out. Recording. You can't do this, Karen whispered. Federal law says I can. And there's more. I pulled out the second document. The FBI wants to talk to you about cutting power to a disabled veteran's life support. That's when she realized she wasn't in control anymore. Karen resigned by lawyer's letter the next morning. But it was too late. The FBI investigation expanded within days. Turned out she'd done this before. Different neighborhood. Same pattern. Targeting elderly residents with medical equipment. Harassment until they sold below market value. She'd been collecting referral fees from a real estate company. $5,000 per house. Federal court records showed she owed 3 families $75,000 in unpaid judgments from her last conviction. She just moved here to restart the scam. The generator truck stayed parked on our street for 2 weeks. Right in front of her house. Running 24/7. Emergency lights. Diesel noise. Federal protection. She couldn't get her car out without asking Dave to move the truck. He always took his time. By week 2, a for sale sign went up in her yard. The HOA held emergency elections. I was voted president unanimously. First thing I did was amend the covenant. Permanent medical equipment protections. No future board could restrict oxygen concentrators, wheelchairs, dialysis equipment, anything keeping someone alive. The vote was 46-0. Karen's house was vacant. Settlement money from the FBI case funded backup generators for 20 other homebound veterans in the county. My grandfather's health improved once the stress ended. He volunteers now, helping other military families fight HOA harassment. Last month, the Martinez family moved in next door. Their son needs the same oxygen support Karen tried to ban. Property values actually went up. Turns out people want to live in communities that protect veterans. Karen's foreclosed house sold last week. The new owners are a retired nurse and her disabled husband. The generator truck's long gone. But sometimes, late at night, I can still hear that diesel engine rumbling. The sound of federal law crushing suburban tyranny. And my grandfather breathing easy in the next room. That's the sound of justice.